of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I thank the gentleman for leading us in the pledge. Would now start with our opening statements. 4.5 million, that's the number of illegal aliens encountered by CBP officials just in the time since President Biden took office. 1.7 million, the number of illegal migrants that Joe Biden released into American communities. 2,378,944, the number of illegal migrants encountered by CBP on the southwest border in 2022. The highest number ever recorded in a single year in our nation's history. 251,487, the number of illegal migrants encountered by CBP on the southwest border in the month of December of last year. The highest monthly number ever recorded. 8,100, the average number of illegal migrants encountered per day on the southwest border in the month of December 2022. 717,660, the number of illegal migrant encounters on the southwest border in just the first 3 months of this fiscal year. 1.1 million, the number of known gotaways who have successfully crossed the southwest border since President Biden took office. 856, the number of migrants who died attempting to cross the southwest border during the past fiscal year. Again, the highest number on record. 98, the number of aliens on the terrorist watch list encountered on our southwest border during fiscal year 2022, yet another record set by the Biden administration. Remember when Mr. Mayorkas testified in front of this committee last Congress, and we asked him about the number on that terrorist watch list? I remember asking Mr. Mayorkas, at the time it was only 40-something. We asked him about that number. He said, what's the status of those individuals? And his response, I think, was astonishing to every member of the committee, both Republican and Democrat, when he said he didn't know. He didn't know if they were detained, he didn't know. This year, 38, the number of aliens on that terrorist screening database. Already this year. 193, the number of fentanyl-related deaths in the United States every single day. We're going to hear from Mr. Dunn and the heartache this causes families and communities, this fentanyl problem. These numbers make clear that the Biden administration does not have operational control of the border. Month after month after month, we have set records for migrants coming into the country. And frankly, I think it's intentional. I don't know how anyone with common sense or logic can reach any other conclusion. It seems deliberate, it seems premeditated, it seems intentional. And as if that's not bad enough, we now learn that the crisis is no longer just confined to the southwest border. Last week, the chief Border Patrol agent in Vermont tweeted this, quote, in less than 4 months, Swanton sector's apprehensions have surpassed the combined 2 prior years. Just in the past 4 months, more than the 2 years combined beforehand. Make no mistake, the Biden administration is carrying out its plan. We all heard Secretary Mayorkas sat in front of this committee and said, we are executing our plan on the border. And we all heard President Biden say, we're trying to make it easier for people to get here. Well, they're certainly succeeding in that. Imagine the frustration that our border communities feel when they hear that the damage done to their land and to their businesses, the crimes committed by illegal alien trespassers, and the overwhelmed local resources that are all part of their own federal government's plan. Today, we will hear about some of the effects of Biden's open border policies on everyday Americans and the communities in which they live. We will hear about dangerous encounters with illegal migrants on private property. We will hear about the devastating effects, as I said earlier, of fentanyl on American families. And we will hear about Mexican smuggling cartels exploiting the open border to terrorize U.S. communities. And the worst part is that none of this had to happen. Under President Trump, the border was secure. Under President Biden, there is no border. And Americans are paying the price. I now recognize the ranking member, the gentleman from New York, Mr. Nadler, once he completes his phone call, for his opening statement.
I thank the chairman for yielding. I wish this committee was starting off on a different note. Unfortunately, this hearing is more of the same haphazard, chaotic style we have come to expect of this new Republican majority. We saw them take 15 tries to pick a speaker. We saw them fumble on the opening play by needing to reschedule their first meeting. And now this. The first hearing will showcase the racist tendencies of the extreme MAGA Republican wing of the party that seeks to close the border to refugees from places like Cuba and Venezuela. It almost makes me miss their usual obsession with conspiracy theories and the FBI. Furthermore, this hearing appears to be the latest spat in an ongoing turf war between Chairman Jordan and Chairman Comer. As we all know, Chairman Jordan's plans for his select subcommittee cut deeply into Chairman Comer's jurisdiction. Not to be outdone, Chairman Comer announced that the Oversight Committee will hold its first hearing on the subject of immigration, a topic that is squarely in this committee's jurisdiction during the week of February 6th. Turning the tables on Chairman Comer once again, our majority hastily threw together today's hearing to ensure that we beat the Oversight Committee by a few days, without the government witnesses that the Oversight Committee had time to secure, of course. I suspect this hearing is also an attempt to distract from the fact that Republicans have failed to pass any meaningful legislation in their first month in the majority. As we all know, as part of the rules package for the House, Majority Leader Scalise included 11 ready-to-go, in quotes, pieces of legislation that were set to completely bypass regular order. Many of those fell under the purview of the Judiciary Committee. It appears, however, that these bills were anything but ready to go. Republicans are unable to pass 4 of the bills that were exclusively or partially under this committee's jurisdiction. Most relevant to today's hearing is H.R. 29, the Border Safety and Security Act of 2023. This legislation has been described as, quote, not Christian, anti-American, and trying to ban legitimate asylum claims. And those are not my words. Those are the words of Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez of Texas. And he's not the only one. According to the Washington Post, dozens of Republican lawmakers have raised concerns about the scope of this legislation. Now let's turn to today's hearing. There is no doubt that the majority and their witnesses will use the same extreme rhetoric we have come to expect from them. They will tell us that the southern border is open, that President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas opened it deliberately, and that it is mostly migrants who are smuggling drugs across our southern border. Of course, none of those statements are true. Yes, significant numbers of individuals are arriving at our southern border, but the Biden administration actually expelled over 1.1 million people last year and recently expanded the use of Title 42, much to the concern of many of us here on the committee. Additionally, the vast majority of drugs we seize are encountered at ports of entry. In fiscal year 2022, only 17% of illicit drugs, including 15% of all fentanyl, were seized between points of entry by the Border Patrol. The rest were seized by the Office of Field Operations, who are stationed at ports of entry. The evidence does not show that asylum seekers are bringing drugs to our shores. In fact, increasingly, drug cartels are recruiting American citizens to bring drugs across the border through ports of entry. We all agree that our immigration system is broken, but let's fix the problems where they are, and not where Fox News talking heads imagine them to be. Sadly, at every turn, this extreme Republican majority fails to offer genuine solutions and resorts to political theater. Our colleagues across the aisle cannot even negotiate in good faith with each other, let alone with us. If that changes, if House Republicans can get their act together and work with us on meaningful solutions to serious problems, as Senate Republicans appear to be willing to work with Senate Democrats, then Judiciary Committee Democrats stand ready to help. But given their behavior these past few months, I have my doubts. Republicans have proposed building a wall, shutting down the asylum system, and defunding the Department of Homeland Security. Those are not serious proposals. They may well play with the extremist base, but they are a waste of this committee's time, and the American people deserve better. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today. I would also like to take a moment and express my condolences to Mr. Dunn and his family. I cannot imagine how difficult the loss of your son has been for you and your wife. Thank you for being here today. I yield back.